Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs postgame podcast. And folks in the chat, Corey and Ryan, I once again have good news. The good news is that the vibes are once again good, baby. All thanks to the summer of Mike Tauchman.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Cubs win 3-2, trailed 2-0. The comeback Cubs were in full effect tonight. And Mike Tauchman, go-ahead homer in the, eighth inning?
I already forgot. Was it the 8th inning?
7th, 8th inning?
I don't know. Top of the 8th. Because
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Top of the 8th inning.
We all know that Mike Tauchman hit the go-ahead homer tonight, and then the Cubs bullpen locked it down after that. I want to say 7th inning now because I remember Merriweather coming in, getting out of the jam, and then was it the 8th inning?
It was the 8th inning. Taillon through 7, then, 8th inning,
you're right.
there you go.
Yeah, Merriweather, then Adbert. Anyway.
We're caught up in the vibes. We don't have time to pay attention to what dang it is.
The vibes are good. It's hard to pay attention. Hello, everyone in the chat. We got 76 people watching. I assume that number is going to continue to increase based off how this game just ended. So hit the like button on your way in.
Like that.
What a game. Button. Like I will say this. First reaction based off just the game in general. You felt like the Cubs needed to win this one tonight because, first off, they're going up against a pitcher that has struggled all year. They needed Jameson Taillon to give them a great start, and they needed to just bounce back. They've done really well at bouncing back after losses during the stretch in the second half, and, they need to keep winning series and stay in this race with the Reds and the Brewers and in the wild card. So, for my immediate reaction of winning this game is just like you're maintaining pace while also, could potentially be back in that last wild card spot. I don't know if the Reds won or not yet, but
the Reds lost today.
So they're back in the last wild card spot.
They're technically percentage points ahead, and then the Brewers are tied 3-3 with the Rockies going into the 8th at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like yesterday, I think as Joe Madden used to say, you throw that one in the old trash can and try to move on. You're on a torrid stretch, right? So them having a letdown on Monday, even a letdown series, right, on the road, it's like it's okay, it's fine, but they also just can decide not to do that and just keep winning series and winning games. And there's, I think, like a lot of individual things in this game to really like and dig into. Mike Tauchman, Jameson Taillon, Cody Bellinger staying red hot, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, and we talked about this towards the end, the Cubs' last 4 wins, right? That last game against the Reds, the 2 wins against Atlanta, and tonight, all 2 runs or less, all games where the offense either needed to stage a comeback or add insurance runs to even offer a little bit of a cushion. And all 4 of those games are games where this bullpen had to come in and protect really tight late leads. And they got it done all 4 times. It's a really impressive win on the road. I don't care where the Mets are at, like in their season or the standings or anything like that. When you can beat a team like the Braves over the weekend, playing 2 close games, and go on the road and keep it up against a Mets offense that has at least a couple good hitters, right? These are impressive wins. These are games that good teams find a way to win and find a way to hold on to. And like Mark Leiter Jr., Julian Merriweather tonight, Adbert Alzolay, they're getting it done, man. Like this back end of the bullpen is ready for the task of locking down close games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and then you look at go back to honestly April and May when the bullpen construction and deployment looked different than it does these days. What do you think? Do you guys think they blow that game in May?
Yes.
Honestly,
in May they definitely blow this
game.
Brad Boxberger blows that game in the 8th inning.
You definitely don't feel as good about a 1-run lead going into the bottom of the 8th on the road as you would. Julian Merriweather goes up. He's been really good. Honestly, most of the year he's been pretty good. I know he had that one really bad outing, his first one, and that just kind of ruined him in people's minds, and people still think he sucks. I've had people tweet at me saying that, and I'm like, no, he's actually been really good this year. Earned a lot of trust from David Ross, and you feel good about him obviously in the 8th, and then Adbert has just become you're more shocked if he blows a save at this point. I think he's 14 for 15 or 15 for 16. I didn't actually go look at how many that is for him, but he's blown one save since he started getting the opportunities in May. So
Well,
they figured it out in that bullpen.
That was a tough one tonight, right? Like Lindor gets on, so you got a fast runner on with no outs. You got to pitch to Alonso, and you got to kind of like maintain your composure there with a runner and lead. He gets the double play ball. Like we've seen plenty of pitchers field that ball and hurl it into center field, whatever. Like Adbert's like, no way. Like I'm locking down this W. This game's over.
Yeah, man. The beginning of the game was frustrating, but
as Craig says, 15 for 16 for Adbert. 15,
nice.
Yeah, 15 for 16,
15 for 16.
and saves for Adbert this year. Go ahead.
Yeah, the way the game started, it was looking like it was going to be an annoying loss based off how the pitching matchup was set up to start the game and how Alonso hit another home run against them. But, credit to the offense for scoring runs. Yes, they had more base running blunders tonight. They got robbed of potentially an insurance run in that top of the ninth inning with the Madrigal line out right to Lindor. Like, the luck factor has not been nice to the Cubs in this series. But hey, that's why we talk about how we've talked about how this team needed more power all season. And tonight they got 2 home runs. And when you keep it close like this and it's a 1-run ball game, all it takes is one swing and none of that luck stuff matters. If you just hit it over the fence, no one's getting it. So again, I give the squad a lot of credit on getting the hits they needed when they absolutely needed it.
Well, and we've seen like this offense. You're going to have games where you can put up 8-9 runs, a bunch of runs, but it's like a lot of stringing singles together or doubles. We've seen them do that, right, where they put up big numbers without hitting home runs. But every now and again, right, like you need to win a game where your offense doesn't do very much and a couple guys just go yard. And that's what we've been talking about they really needed, and Bellinger and Mike Tauchman provided that today.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said that they're listening for the first time, at least for watching for the first time in the chat. They usually listen to the podcast form. I think it was Chris Jones. So shout out to you, Chris. Thanks for joining the live chat. Hit the like button if you haven't. And that's for everyone else, not just Chris. And also, everyone is telling me that Cole Wright gave me a shout out on Marquee, which
why is that, Cody?
Because everyone is referencing the summer of Mike Tauchman.
Right.
So
it is a thing now, apparently.
It is a thing.
I mean, we're living it.
We are living the summer of Mike Tauchman.
I got to tell you, I love the summer of Mike Tauchman. It's one of the best summers of my life. I'm kind of looking forward to the fall of Mike Tauchman. And when I say that, I mean the autumn of Mike Tauchman, not the fall of Mike Tauchman.
Yeah.
The autumn of Mike Tauchman.
There you go.
So,
October Mike Tauchman, like that hits different.
Yeah.
All that on top of the Cubs actually using the bit, tweeting out the Tauchman homer tonight. I mean, this might be. I thought
one might say they acknowledged you.
Yeah, one might say they acknowledged me. Another might say this might be my favorite night of the summer of Mike Tauchman, but it's hard to beat the catch he had against St. Louis. It's hard to beat a lot of other nights because the summer of Mike Tauchman has been incredible. I can't continue to describe how unreal the things he is doing, because again, he was a spring training invite.
He signed a minor league contract.
Yeah, he no one thought that he was going to be a major factor on this team. And whenever this team, Vegas had this team 77.5 wins over under coming in the year. Teams that go over those types of projections, they find players like Mike Tauchman to come up and just be a lightning rod. And he has been that ever since David Ross put him in the leadoff role when they went to San Francisco earlier this year. He has been everything. And even before that, he was playing well, but his impact has made an even bigger difference now at the top of the lineup and just defensively. I really am not going to know how to explain to my future kids about the summer of Mike Tauchman.
Do we have that graphic, by the way, Sarah, of Mike Tauchman? You get that one up.
You'll explain it to them when you move to Palatine, obviously, in his honor.
So Mike Tauchman, this is his post All-Star break stats. If you're not watching on YouTube, I will read them out for you. He's got a 363 average, 1048 OPS, which includes 425 on base and 623 slugging, 12 extra base hits, 20 RBIs, a 12.6% K rate, and a 10.3% walk rate. This is post All-Star break, so that's since July 14th for Mike Tauchman. Yeah, he's been awesome. He's been really, really good.
Well, and like, so on the year, he's got a 125 WRC plus, which is just phenomenal. As we talked about before, he's obviously playing every day because he's hitting both sides, right? He's not even been a platoon guy. And you talk about that stretch from the All-Star break. We all know this, but that is when the team needed it the most. That stretch post All-Star break, like I don't think people forget this, right? But now we're all having fun. We're standings watching and all this other stuff. Like, that was still at the point where they were like definitely going to sell, right? Yeah. And like Tauchman and Bellinger, like these guys going on that stretch is what brought us to this point where they're adding at the deadline. Yeah. And we're talking about, we're watching the wild card standings. We're creeping up on the Brewers in the division. Like, that's the timing of Tauchman getting in the lineup every day and performing with an OPS over 1,000 could not have been more important for this Cubs team and this 2023 season.
Yeah, and I don't want to obviously forget, like, Mike Tauchman isn't like a rookie or anything. Like, he's 32 years old.
Like a journeyman.
Yeah, I mean he's had good seasons. I'm trying to pull up his stats.
That
right
season
here.
was Yankees.
19 with the Yankees.
Yeah,
he's played parts of, like, this would be his 6th season in the major leagues. He had like Cody mentioned, a good season in 19 with the Yankees. So he's had some success at the big leagues. It's not like he's a flash in the pan rookie or something that's gonna fall down to earth. Don't want to throw like Frank Schwindel under the bus or anything like that. But like, that was his first real time in the big leagues at the end of 21, had a great last 2 months, and then you kind of saw him get exposed in 2022. Mike Tauchman doesn't feel like that's going to happen. I think he's a guy that, again, has had major league success. He is somewhat of, like, in a way, a veteran. He's played in some under the bright lights of New York, obviously, in Yankee Stadium. But you even watch just like the at-bats. David Ross has talked about this in spring training, just like the professional at-bats, all that other stuff. And he's come up. He came in sort of as a replacement for Cody Bellinger when he went down. And Mike Tauchman has just delivered for the last going on 3 months now. It's been like good to see. I don't know if he's not like an elite defensive outfielder, but he's making the routine plays. He's doing what he has to do to kind of, make those plays. He ran down a line drive earlier today that could have tied up the game, I want to say. So he's playing fine on defense, and he's providing at the top of the order specifically just a really good professional approach to the at-bats. And he's been asked about that before. Like, we've asked him about that in scrums, and he kind of doesn't put a whole lot of stock in like the whole leadoff thing, just because like he's even said it, like, you lead off one time and then you don't really lead off for the rest of the game. But I think the part of that is your leadoff hitters are generally going to get the most plate appearances of anyone in your lineup, and you want a guy like Mike Tauchman who's going to put together really good approach at bats, really good plate approach when he's up there, and especially in this stretch since the All-Star break.
And that's a spot where, even if you only lead off once a game, like, that's a spot where the Cubs have had trouble filling that. So like, what I was going to say as you were saying that too is, like, you also had the Cubs really searching not only for someone to occupy that leadoff spot and kind of hold it down and not like disrupt their game, which is kind of something that's been a concern with the guys that have been there. But they also needed another outfielder, right? Yeah. Seiya was hurt. Seiya's obviously struggled. He'll be back in the lineup tomorrow, but we're giving him a rest. And then you look at like some of the options, like Patrick Wisdom was playing right field when Seiya was out. Trey Mancini was playing right field. Mastroboni was playing right field. Yeah. Like, Tauchman's offense and like the defense, it's all so important, obviously, but it at a position where they desperately needed somebody to come in and take the reins on that role, because they were trying just about everything they had in terms of their roster depth, which wasn't very good. Yeah. And for them to not only have found that, but it's someone who's carrying the team at times for the last few weeks. It's just massive for this team.
Yeah, it is wild to think, like, last year he was playing in the KBO. Cubs signed him to a minor league contract, spring training invite. Like, he's earning the minimum. Like, he's been... People talk about Jed Hoyer and some of the misses on the margin players. Eric Hosmer, obviously. Right. Trey Mancini's no longer on the team. Players like that. But he's also made some pretty solid finds on those margins. Mike Tauchman, I think, is, at least for this season. Merriweather. I mean, getting Mark Leiter Jr. to stay in the organization.
Credit to us.
On a non-40 man roster guy all offseason, so that they could do whatever they needed to do roster-wise throughout the winter, and then added him back on the opening day roster. Like, doing all that kind of stuff, obviously credit to Jed for doing that this offseason. But, like, Mike Tauchman, I think right now you're looking at him, and he's, like, on the upper echelon of, like, those margin pickups that have gone right for the Cubs this year, but even in the last couple of years.
And you said it, Cody, like, teams need this. Like, we feel like the Brewers find guys like this all the time. Cardinals find guys like this, whether they're calling them up or it's guys that they sign, just guys that are giving them crazy performance for even a stretch of time. Like, you need this, right? Like, guys aren't going to be able to carry the team for every single game. You're going to need not random, but like guys to step up and just fill that role. And Tauchman has done that in
the
spades.
Summer of Mike Tauchman bit started because I just was joking about, he's having a good month. He's having a good like couple weeks. We'll talk about this to our kids one day when we think back to the 2023 Cubs or something. But it's been more than just a stretch. He legitimately is a guy that you feel like you have to play every day. That's what it feels like, and that's what's so awesome about it. Because, like Corey just said, you got to find those guys, and teams like the Brewers and the Cardinals most years are finding guys like that, and that's why we sit here all off season and we look at both those teams' rosters, mainly Milwaukee's, in my opinion. I see their roster every year going into the season. I'm like, all right, they have pitching, but are they going to hit? Well, they somehow find dudes. They had a bunch of young guys come up this year, but here they are right in the race. And that's the thing, is like they get dudes that no one's ever heard of to do things like what Mike Tauchman's doing for the Cubs.
And I know we got to do the beer bat. We got to talk about Jameson Taillon too. A huge start for Jameson Taillon, but just like finishing on Tauchman and especially his ability to kind of lock down that leadoff spot. We've talked about it a bunch, but obviously since they got Jamer, like, you just feel so much better about that lineup. Obviously, they needed to do more against Carrasco. The Cubs won, so, like, I don't really care to get into that. Carrasco has not been good, and you would have liked to see a more, like, solid effort against them as a whole for a guy coming in that just has not been good this season. But when you look at the lineup, just in terms of their names and their performance, Tauchman being in that leadoff spot, being able to slide Nico down to the 2, you've got Belly in the 4, Swanson 5, Candy 6. Like, we've seen some awful lineups from this team early in the season.
Year,
and again, they didn't get it done like we would have liked tonight on the whole, but you just look at it. I mean, Yan Gomes has been so good as a catcher, and now you've got him hitting 8th. You can let Madrigal like do his thing and try to stay hot coming back from the injury in the 9-hole. Right? Like, you just feel so much better about this lineup 1 through 9 than you did for very much of this season.
Yeah. I think
we had a couple super chats.
We have super chats. Also, people are saying we're not reading the chat. That is not true.
There's just a lot of
there's a lot to talk
right
about, and there's a lot of chats. I'm trying to keep up. I see you, Barb. I will not spill the beer on Ryan. And
I am 21 also. Barb.
And Ryan is 21. Yes.
Well, I'm not 21.
He's over 21.
I'm over 21.
He's over 20.
Yes, I'm.
He can drive me home if he has to.
Yeah, I could.
Should we do the super chats while we do? Before we do the beer bet?
Sure, yeah.
We could do the super chats while you're doing the beer
Changes, $2. Cubs can start a lengthy winning streak tomorrow.
Sounds
that's
good.
what you're hoping for, right? To win the series at least. Manuel Rios, $5. Keep wearing them shorts, Cody. # Let's go Cubbies. Yeah, all the slander about the shorts. It's quieted down.
The Cubs can start a lengthy win streak, but you know what is not lengthy? Cody's shorts. Take a look at those legs.
I wore a pair that's a little bit longer than the pairs that I've been wearing recently.
We doing this?
But yes.
I have the stopwatch as well.
We have the watch.
We have the watch.
But perhaps we need
more than one.
Just like as
more than
a
one.
backup, right?
Yeah.
I'll do it. Don't worry.
Okay, so dedication time. This beer bat is for the summer of Mike Tauchman. The Cubs tweeting the bit, Marquee acknowledging the bit. I'm not going to hog that much time about it, but it's pretty sick. Just going to remember this day for a while, all right?
Just never going to let it go.
I mean, they hired me and said, turn something into something or whatever. Do something with something, whatever. And that's what I did.
You did the do? Is that what we said earlier?
I did the thing.
Yeah,
they told me to just turn something into something, and that's what I did.
Do the do. Okay.
So it's cool. All right, here we go. Are we ready?
All right, so while he's doing that.
Yeah, no dead air.
No dead air.
Are we play by playing it?
Again.
He's going. He's going. Oh, it's starting to
357
leak.
WOBA for Tauchman, 125 WRC plus. Incredible stuff as the beer bet ends.
I got 1454. Did you lose
I'm
it?
such an idiot. I literally exited the second it did
Well, it's
that.
a good thing I was doing it, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
good
why we
thing he
need
was
it.
doing
What
it.
was it, like 12?
1454 is what I got.
1454.
Cody
I like
Delmendo,
that the
he's
chat
spilled a
has
lot.
their own times.
Yeah, they do. I think they're
I
guessing.
spilled some on my shirt, and I
Um,
look like I pissed my pants.
So you
that's
said
cool.
357 WOBA?
357
Even
WOBA,
on a night
125
like this,
WRC
I
plus.
embarrass myself.
That's pretty good.
284, 375, 442 from Tauchman. And at this point, we're talking 250 plate appearances. Like, this is far from a small sample.
Yeah.
Like, if people want to talk about, like, next year or how, like, I don't know, right? Like, that's kind of where the bit is fun, where it's like, just enjoy the summer of Mike Tauchman. I don't know long term.
Yeah.
Again, as Ryan said, he's not, some rookie, some brand new guy to the league. He's by next season he'll be 33, right? So like I don't know. He's doing a great job in the leadoff spot. He's been exactly what this team needs for 2023. Well, I don't know beyond that.
We'll see.
The
When we get
vibes
to
are
the
great.
offseason, we can
yeah,
talk
the
about
vibes
it.
are great right now. I wouldn't worry
If he
about
keeps
it.
playing like this, I could totally see the Cubs re-signing him going into next year. Outfield depth,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, PCA is going to be in center field, but
We'll
you
see.
know.
I guess
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. But like the way he's doing, okay, how about this? The way he's playing right now, if he keeps it up, he's definitely going to have forced his name into that potential plan for what the outfield could look like next year.
Sure.
I think if he keeps playing like this, he's definitely going to have a shot at re-signing with the Cubs. But even if he's not with the Cubs, like there's going to be teams out there that see what he did this year if he continues it and want him to be a part of their outfield, even if it's like a fourth outfielder type situation, which is kind of what it looked like it was going to be once Bellinger came back, and obviously things have changed a little bit. But he's played well, and I would probably say with confidence that he'll be on a major league roster next year on opening day if he
Absolutely.
continues to play like this, because he's been good.
Yeah. How far are we into the show, sir? 22 minutes.
22. 23
We got
minutes.
353 people watching, 106 likes. Make that make sense. Hit the like button.
Do we got another super
chat? Captain Morgan 85. How much longer before we get a Summer of Mike Tauchman shirt? Oh man.
Stay tuned. I don't know.
Stay tuned. I don't.
Maybe, we don't know.
I'll say this much: there has been some ideas thrown around. That's all I can say.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well,
So we did the Tauchman.
Jameson Taillon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll say this much about Jameson Taillon. I know we were all sitting here in April, May, June, and we were dogging on the front office for, signing this guy instead of, I don't know, Nathan Eovaldi. I know that was kind of my thing because Eovaldi was cheaper, and I don't know if he's fallen off here in the second half, but he definitely put himself in the AL Cy Young race for a little bit. And
He's on the IL.
listen, Taillon, for him as a person, I'm just happy that he has gotten back to some sort of form of being something, right? Tonight was probably his best start since the Yankees start, as far as going deep into games. He's been fine of late. His last start was a roller coaster. I think he got away with giving up more runs because the Reds just didn't execute, or I don't know what they were able to do. I was in the stands when that game happened, but for me watching in the ballpark, that one was kind of a roller coaster. But before that though, he's been better. He's kept the Cubs in the game while he's had starts in April, May, and June that were just awful. I mean, I remember Corey, me and you sitting in your seats against the Orioles, and that game was pretty much over after like the second or third inning because the Orioles pounded him, right? He has gotten back to a point to where this looks more like what we saw with him with the Yankees last year. And if he is able to do more of this tonight, I know it's the Mets. I know that like the biggest threats in their lineup are Lindor and Alonso, and they have a bunch of young guys. Francisco Alvarez is someone that I really like. He's one of the best rookies this year. Like, I wouldn't say that he went up against an atrocious lineup. Is it the best lineup he's seen all year? Absolutely not. But if he can give performances anywhere close to something like this the rest of the year, you're feeling really good about the Cubs rotation going into October if they get in. And all I can say is if he keeps this up, it makes you feel better about the rotation going into 2024. Because if this was if April, May, and June was a full year problem, or if it turned into a full year problem, we would have so many other issues and a lot of money to pay to a guy that's not doing anything. So for me, I'm happy for him as just like a person, because I'm sure he wasn't happy that he was giving up all those runs. But I'm also just happy to see him go through that adversity and, get back to just being a quality pitcher. To me, that's fun to watch. It makes you feel good about the guy, because at the end of the day, they are human beings. So that's from my perspective. I'm just glad that he is getting back to that point, like where he was with the Yankees last year.
And I mean, we talked about a lot when the struggles were bad earlier in the year. Like, they need to get this figured out because it's a 4-year deal, right? So whatever the ramifications for 2023, obviously early in the season we weren't really sure how this was all going to go. You needed to get it figured out because you have him for a few years, and as you said, Cody, like, him not being good and you being on the hook for that money creates problems going forward, right? Yep. So that's important. But I think, like, I know we have a graphic for like his last several starts, but before we get to that, like, they needed this start. Like, from a narrative perspective, putting the numbers aside, and I know it's not easy to just say, hey, we need a big start from you tonight, right? Like, there's so much that goes into this, but they needed that badly. After that, the last week that they've had, you had some short starts over the weekend. You had, Smiley kind of eat it and wear it on Monday, but you have a long, like, rain-delayed game. You have different guys getting used. You had your high-leverage relievers really used in Saturday, Sunday against the Braves. You needed a big start here. After the loss, you would have been staring at a series loss here to the Mets. Now you have the opportunity to win the series with Kyle Hendricks on the mound tomorrow. So, like, we'll dig into some of the numbers because for the last, like, at least 7 starts, I think Taillon has been pretty good, like, real good. But they needed a start like this to eat innings, to save the bullpen, and to just give the team a winnable game. That was the frustrating thing about Smiley on Monday, is that even though it wasn't the worst start we've ever seen, right, from a Cubs pitcher, you felt like he was pushing them out of the game. They tried to come back after it was 3-1. He gives up another homer, and it just felt like he was making it difficult for the offense to kind of stay in that game. They needed Taillon to go out there tonight and deliver exactly the start that he gave him. That was a huge moment for him and one the team desperately, desperately needed.
Yeah, no, totally. Jameson Taillon was he delivered when they needed him to, as you said. We have that graphic, the last 6 starts for Jameson Taillon. He's 5-0, 2.17 ERA.
That's my area.
1.018 WHIP, 30 strikeouts, 10 walks, so 3-1 strikeout to walk ratio in that time. The Cubs are actually 6-0 in his starts during that stretch, whereas his first 14 they were 2-12. I know that was a number that was thrown around a lot about Taillon.
Which is also crazy as you say that. He has a winning record
he has
on the year. I don't care about pitcher wins and losses, but that's crazy.
He has
Luke
7-6.
does.
Good for Luke Stuckmeyer totally does. He's 7-6. He's gotten his ERA down to 5.17 when it was as high as 8.10 on May 20th. So he's turned his season around. He's not throwing gems out there every single time. I think that that New York start was still his best. This is probably his second best. But he's going out and giving this team a chance to win. You mentioned how today specifically, the bullpen's been used a lot right here at the end of a long stretch of games without a day off for the Cubs, and they've used a lot of those high leverage guys a lot lately. Yeah, in some of these wins. So they needed Jameson Taillon to go deep in this game, to pitch efficiently, to give them a chance to win. Quality start was necessary, like from the jump, and he delivered. He's been, he's turning a season around, and he absolutely had a bad first half of the year for the most part. Like there's no denying how that he did not have a good first half of the year. But the way I always looked at it, it was like Marcus Stroman had a bad first half of the year last year. John Lester had a very up and down whole first year of his Cubs tenure. I want to say Yu Darvish, kind of the same thing. Like, sometimes guys go to a new team, sign big contracts, get into a new pitching system that, they don't always start off on the right foot. And I thought, Taillon obviously wasn't good, but I also thought he was kind of counted out a little too fast. And, people felt how they felt, whatever. But he's been a lot better in the last 6 starts, starting with that outing against the Yankees. Hey, I guess he likes pitching in New York because it's his second best outing in Queens.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
No, so he's been better, a lot better this last 6 starts. For the Cubs' sake, like that needs to extend the rest of the season. Now that they're in this stretch run, they got Stroman still on the IL and not pitching well the last few times out. So they obviously have to hope he turns things around. Smiley's got to start to figure some things out. Or if they eventually move Smiley out of the rotation, whoever they bring in is going to have to step up. But like all that notwithstanding, Jameson Taillon has to be consistently good down this stretch run. He's been that the last 6 starts. That needs to. If the Cubs want to win the division, win the wild card, make the playoffs, like they're going to need Jameson Taillon, who was their big money pitcher addition. They need him to be good.
Well, and I think especially, obviously, and I think we said this on Sunday, like Stroman coming back and being Marcus Stroman is probably the most important thing for this pitching staff. I think that's, not something that...
talked about that last night.
Yeah, it's not something that really needs to be said. Like, duh, right? Like, you need him to come and not pitch the way he did those, 6 or so starts before he went on the IL. That's so important. But Taillon continuing to pitch like this, continuing this good stretch, and again, whether he's, great, whatever, right? Just not what he was in the beginning. Allowing the Cubs to win the games in the games that he's starting. If he can keep that ERA under 3 in this stretch, great, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so important because you've seen Drew Smyly struggle. Kyle Hendricks has been very hit or miss since he's came back. He's spun some really good, vintage Kyle Hendricks starts, and he's got knocked around a bit, like that start against the Braves, right? So with Stroman on the IL, with Smyly very much up in the air, with Hendricks kind of up in the air, if Taillon was also up in the air, you have some real questions about this pitching staff. And I don't know that those questions have been completely answered because Taillon still needs to keep doing this and Stroman needs to come back and be healthy. But we need somebody to take the pressure off of Justin Steele, right? Justin Steele is already, I believe, over his career high innings, peak in his major league career, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's not to say that I expect him to fade, but him being the only reliable pitcher while Marcus Stroman is on the IL. And again, before he hit the IL, Stroman was not reliable. Yeah. That's not going to work. That's not going to carry you through September, and it's certainly not going to work in the playoffs. So we need to continue to see this from Taillon, but very important that somebody other than Justin Steele stepped on that mound and delivered a really, really good start. And if he can keep that going forward, it really does kind of calm down some of those concerns you might have about what this rotation looks like as we kind of get into this playoff stretch for real.
Yeah. I'm convinced that Jameson Taillon started pitching better because he started going to Hooters. That's my – don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. I'm convinced.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess there's no way to really confirm or deny that.
Yeah,
one.
I'm sure he started going to Hooters because he's like, I need to get those wings. I got to get those $6 drinks because I got to feel right before the start,
That's fair.
So if you want to feel good like Jameson Taillon, Hooters is your spot to catch all the games this season. Step up to the plate for their world-famous wings, delicious seafood, stacked sandwiches, salads, and more. Tons of great beer specials and $6 drinks all day, every day. Check out their seafood specials. $19.83 for a pound of crab legs and great prices on buffalo and steamed shrimp. Hooters is celebrating 40 years in the business all year long in honor of the anniversary on the 4th of every month. Hooters will be hosting throwback events, bringing the 80s back with 83-cent wings, as Luke Stuckmeyer would say. 83-cent wings and other great specials. Hooters! Check it out. Anyway.
Yeah, you know what goes good with Hooters is Shady Rays.
Absolutely. When you're eating your wings, you can have your sunglasses on and you're just vibing, baby.
Just vibing. Yeah, Shady Rays. We love Shady Rays here. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn.
I was going to put them over my other glasses.
You should have, anyway. Corey's got them on if you're watching the YouTube. Shady Rays has durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures, and that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's CHGO, 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I look pretty good.
Yeah, those are your new ones,
You
right?
do look really good.
Yeah, it's my second pair of Shady Rays. And as I told you guys, I can't see anything because they don't have I didn't get my prescription lenses put in them yet. But I feel like I look good this way.
Cool.
I can't see that way, but you know.
You look like Luke when he does the Maverick. Like that is you actually right now.
Yeah, you do. You are giving
except
off
like
Maverick
30
vibes.
to 40 years younger.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We got 159 likes. How many people watching, Sarah? 362. Make it make sense. Hit the like button so it makes sense. I wanted to mention ALLCITY tweeted a half hour ago, back in the W column, ... Cubbies, and then like what is this? This emoji?
That's my favorite emoji. It's like the
chef's
Like
kiss.
the chef.
chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
okay.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Like
Chef's
the-
kiss
So
emoji.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
I already loved
Beautiful.
ALLCITY because he loves being a Cub, and he makes that very well known on social media. He's very big on social media, Cubs Twitter. But I mean, we kind of talked about him a little bit in that first segment. But again, for him to come in there, even though he gave up that leadoff hit, and then still get the double play, get the ground ball, field it, and then not heave it in the outfield, all that. Like him and Merriweather were great tonight. I thought Merriweather clutch, and you got into a little bit of trouble, got out of it, gets the ground ball to Nico, as in Merriweather, and
That was a big
those
spot.
guys.
Yeah.
Those guys have just been clutch over the stretch, and just honestly all season. Even when times were bad, in the few games that the Cubs would win when times were bad, like they were a big part of it. And like we were talking about with Tauchman being like one of those marginal players that has like made a huge impact on this team. Merriweather, I mean, he has to be like the biggest addition to this bullpen at this point. I know Leiter has been that reverse splits guy and has been great too, but he was with the team last year, and this was the first Cubs podcast that was defending the guy. we
not even Cubs
manifested.
podcast. It's just
anyone who
watching
defended him in
games.
general. We manifested this season for Mark Leiter Jr. Merriweather, on the other hand, it's like no one knew what we were going to get out of him, and after the first few appearances, we were like, "Oh, this doesn't look great," and he's just become.
I mean,
a mainstay.
really, it was only his first when he gave up 5 earned runs and 2/3 on April 2nd against Milwaukee. Since then, he's pitched in 47 games, 2.74 ERA. Like opponents have a 6.29 OPS.
And we're all just looking at samples here, basically. But last 7 games, 9 1/3. 1 run allowed, just 7 hits. That's a sub-1 ERA for Julian Merriweather. Just been absolutely great to go along with Leiter. And, this is one of those things we said, like, this Cubs front office has been hesitant to invest big money in relievers. It's just not something they love to do as a sort of large-scale strategy. Obviously, you go back to Theo, they made a big trade to win the World Series in 2016. You guys remember that?
People forget that.
People forget that. But they kind of bank a lot on their ability to find guys tinker with them or help them regain their form and move stuff around. And it looked rocky early in the year, right? But they moved guys around. You've got Fulmer now doing really well in a different role, kind of putting out fires earlier in the game. And you have a back end of the bullpen that you pretty much cobbled together, right? And a big credit to, I think, ALLCITY in particular, but I think Mark Leiter Jr. as well. And like Merriweather did it tonight, but it's Leiter and ALLCITY more often than not. Them stepping up into high leverage roles, pitching high leverage, especially as we're now literally in a playoff race, that's not easy to do. And that is not the role that I think either of them would have necessarily anticipated, especially ALLCITY. Like ALLCITY a few years ago as a starter, he's kind of coming into this season probably looking at being a multi-inning sort of like weapon type thing. For those guys to come into this role and occupy an 8th and 9th inning, high leverage, lockdown end of the bullpen, like a lot of credit to them, because that is not an easy role to just have thrust upon you and for them to perform this way. As our guy, Dr. Brendan Miller, tweeted, Adbert ALLCITY, of all MLB relievers, leads the National League in walk per 9, so he is not putting guys on base for free. And you look at his overall numbers, like a 2.49 ERA, just incredible for him on this season.
His conversion percentage on saves, if it's at 15, last save, I think it was like his 14th out of 15 chances or whatever it was the other day that he converted, and it was like top 4 or 5 in the entire major leagues among like as far as conversion rate for like guys that have gotten at least 5 opportunities or 15 opportunities. Like for the guys that are getting as many save opportunities as he has been converting them at an elite level. And yeah, you mentioned, I mean, last year prior to the injury, like there was still discussion about Adbert ALLCITY maybe going into 2022 as like fighting for a rotation spot. And obviously that didn't happen. He's gotten this new role. He's moved roles just in this season alone, and he's been lights out. He's been great.
Let's go. The Rockies just took the lead.
We are watching the Brewers and Rockies.
Yes, the chat is talking about the Rockies and Brewers. So I put up the old friend
Andrew Chafin walking in a run,
helping the Cubs out.
Walking in a run, huh?
Walking in Vanessa Hudgens' fiance or husband.
No outs.
Say something nice about Cole Tucker. Thank you. In this one,
we'll keep an eye on it. But yeah. It's still top of the
4-pitch
10th,
walk,
so we
no
gotta
outs.
see how that unfolds.
Rockies just took a 4-3 lead.
So what I was saying about the bullpen, Adbert's been great. Mark Leiter Jr. has been pretty solid the entire season. Julian Merriweather, honestly, outside of that first appearance at the beginning of the year, has been really good all year. Michael Fulmer's found his role. Like, he didn't succeed as a closer to start the season, but he's been pretty solid as like the guy that just kind of comes in and puts out fires. He did that was that Sunday or Saturday, whatever day that was, that he came in and closed the door on a pretty sticky situation. And, you know, Brad Boxberger, we talked about it. You mentioned him a little lightheartedly earlier, but, like, he was a solid reliever for the Brewers the last couple of years. Like, he hasn't pitched since May 13th, and he wasn't good for the Cubs prior to that. But if he, you know, this time off, he's been in Arizona for a while, maybe he's healthy. If he could come in and provide just solid innings for them down the stretch, he doesn't have to be a high leverage reliever for them, but if he could come in and just provide solid innings in whatever role they kind of put him in, whatever innings they put him in, like, then you have another good, you know, veteran guy who's kind of you know, with some experience and in the high leverage roles. Like, that would provide a boost for the Cubs bullpen, which a lot of these guys are being used a lot. I'm not saying Brad Boxberger is going to come in and do that, but if he does, like, that is going to provide some relief for the relievers who are getting used a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we've discussed David Ross a lot, and there's a lot of ins and outs to that, but one of the things that at times it was frustrating to me last year, even though the Cubs were not really trying to win games, credit to David Ross for trying to figure out the best way to use some of these guys, right? There were times last year, and he still does it now, where you would kind of ask the question of, why are they sending this guy back out there, right? Why is this guy doing a second inning? Why is this guy going back out for another inning to try to get more outs? And you see the kind of payoff of that. David Ross tried a lot of things in those down years where the Cubs winning games was not really important.
Yeah.
No matter, you always want them to win, but like realistically, it was not important. They tried some stuff, right? They put Mark Leiter Jr. in tough situations. They stopped starting him to see if he could be a weapon out of the bullpen. They removed Adbert Alzolay from being a starter. They tried him as a 3-inning reliever, as a 1-inning reliever, et cetera, et cetera. And it was frustrating at times, but then you kind of come into a season like this and you kind of see like the payoff of that, of like, hey, we put these guys through the paces to see where they could sink or swim, and now we have an idea of, hey, Michael Fulmer's struggling, and we wanted him to be the closer. Who can do this job? And David Ross and Tommy Hotovy feel like they had some knowledge of, hey, who can we move around to do these jobs?
It's, I guess, in this season, remember when I remember in the offseason, I told everyone the one thing you don't have to worry about with going into 2023 was the bullpen. And
for a while there, it didn't.
For a while, it didn't look like it, because I came on here and was like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It just took them a little bit longer, and the only reason that I thought I was wrong was because in the last handful of years, the Cubs had figured out
the bullpen. They walked in another run.
They walked in another run?
They brought in a new pitcher, and he walked in a run.
Shout out to the Rockies. Shout out to DMVR Rockies.
Do the Rockies have someone who can close this game, though? Probably not.
Score 1,000 runs.
I think they do.
I think we'll still be on the air. So, like, hold on.
Anyway, what I was saying is, in previous years, it seemed like Ross and Hotovy and all of them were able to figure out the bullpen roles fairly quickly, at least by the end of April, even though the teams weren't good. But this year, honestly, I don't feel like they figured out the bullpen until June, and that's when the number, like the bullpen numbers started to show. They had one of the best. They were one of the best bullpens in baseball in June, and it's only continued as time has gone on. And listen, I like the way that my Apple Watch is going off. I don't know why. I like the way that they are trying to build their bullpen from within and bringing in these, like, I guess you could call them marginal guys, but somehow turning them into high leverage dudes. I'd rather them spend money on position players or starting pitching.
Give the money to Cody Bellinger.
Yeah,
How about that?
I'd rather them give that money to guys who are going to play every day and either hit homers or lead off, whatever. I would rather them do that. If they really can keep this type of churning in and out of guys in the bullpen year in and year out, you're really setting yourself up for a lot of success down the road. Not only just the rest of this year and the last few years, but even down the road and what's supposed to be real competitive postseason type teams. Because the expectations will surely be higher next year.
Yeah, and I know that they, as far as bullpen goes, don't want to spend a lot of money on relievers, and at some point they want to have at least a majority of that bullpen just kind of being, replaced by internal guys, right? Like young guys come up, get their feet wet and lower leverage, and are eventually able to just kind of move into those high leverage roles. I mean, was the goal of this whole pitching infrastructure overhaul. That is still the goal for them, is to have a pitching staff that's like their guys, went through their system and are know the Cubs way, quote unquote. I don't know what else to say. That is still their goal going into this year.
They walked another one.
There you go, walked another one.
Oh my God,
3 in a row.
Going into this year,
where were you when the Brewers imploded?
Going into this year, they had. They brought in Fulmer and Boxberger, and I talked about this way earlier in the year that when you keep just kind of piecing together bullpens like this, you don't have a ton of guys with long track records of success. You're going to go through those struggles of trying to find the roles. You're going to go through those struggles where the bullpen doesn't look as good as you hoped it would. But then you start to get into the season. You go through, you take your lumps. You go through the struggles with the bullpen guys. You eventually, I guess, hopefully find the roles, and then you start to see the fruits of that labor. This is what the Cubs have been at all year. Like, yes, most of the first 2 months was them trying to figure out the right roles for most of their bullpen guys, because it was pieced together mostly, and you saw how much that bullpen had struggled for a lot of that. Once they got those roles set, Julian Merriweather's pitching great in high leverage. Mark Leiter Jr. is good in high leverage. Adbert Alzolay is emerging as a real closer. Once you went through all those struggles to find the right roles, then you see the dividends of that. Would you obviously have liked to see that happen way sooner in the year? Would you have liked them to have figured out the roles like the 3rd or 4th week of April? Of course. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but now you're seeing once they got those roles figured out, now you're seeing just kind of how, yes, it's a process, but this is like the results of going through that process. You're seeing guys step up and pitch very well in the roles they have now.
Well, and I've been tweeting a lot of GIFs of it, but like my favorite thing after these wins is seeing Adbert's reaction to locking it down. He's big on the underhanded like fist pump, right?
Yeah.
Tonight he was doing this. I don't know if that was like something at the Mets crowd or what, but like he was like clapping on his glove or pointing to his watch. I couldn't really tell, but I loved it, right? Like I love the energy. I love Adbert because he'll tweet like the most positive, like inspiring, like motivational quote in the morning or like after the game. Great team win from the Cubbies, like believing in yourself is everything. But then after he gets the save, he's just like screaming, like it's the best. It's the best energy. Big ALLCITY.
He's definitely easy to love, honestly. And that's kind of like the pros of being able to follow athletes on social media, because you get to see like that side of them. And so Rockies now lead 6-3. If no one knows, we have a few super chats. We'll get to them after the ads.
I love how many people in the chat are
following
scoreboard watching as well. Yeah, I love it.
I was getting like shamed for scoreboard watching during the game because I like quote tweeted the DMVR
We're trying to win
Rockies.
a division here,
and it's just like it's August. We're scoreboard watching, man. I like to enjoy my scoreboard watching with a Goose Island beer.
Well, I do too, and I have more to say about Goose Island as well. But like speaking to the chat, like watching the thing, this is what we're all here for.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We're together doing this because we're the type of people who are scoreboard watching in August. Like that's what we've been waiting for.
We do.
Cubs have not been playing good baseball for years. I missed scoreboard watching. I missed like watching Julian Merriweather in that 8th inning get out of that with the runners on and like trying to pitch out of that jam. I missed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we missed that. But as you said, want to talk to you guys. You guys know you just watched Cody drink it out of the beer bat. Goose Island Beer Company is Chicago's beer since 1988, and they are big supporters of CHGO. Goose Island has an incredible beer roster, the Goose IPA, the Tropical Beer Hug, my favorite, the 312 Wheat Ale, also what you saw in the beer bat tonight. I had
4 seconds.
a delicious
Thanks for
ice-cold 312 all week, really, but the one that stands out was Sunday. It was a little rainy at Wrigley Field, but that 312 just hits different.
It's
Full
different.
Pocket Pilsner, the everyday beer, what the brewers are drinking. I believe that is Dr. Brendan Miller's favorite on the Goose Island beer roster.
Nice.
You can confirm in the chat.
If I can speak
he's
for him. You can grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at Goose Island Original Brewhouse on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. If you go to the brewhouse on Clybourne specifically, you got to get the smash burger. It's delicious. I had that. They had fried pickles. You pair that with whatever beer is to your liking. Again, I'm a 312 man.
Always.
You can't beat that meal over in Lincoln Park. It's the best. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988.
I always say this. I've been telling people this for the last 8 years. Nothing goes good with beer like college, guys. Students are just like you, full-time jobs, families, full-time sports fandoms. Go back to a school to earn a respected degree at Lewis University, 35 miles southwest of Chicago in Romeoville, ranked as one of U.S. News and World Report's top-tier colleges. Lewis partners with numerous employees for tuition discounts and offers evening, online, and blended formats to help you balance work, family, and education. Faculty will bring you real-world experience and instruction to the classroom, which is immediately relevant to your career. They offer career support and academic resources for adult students looking to complete your bachelor's or master's degree or enroll in a professional certificate program. Lewis has the right program for you. Lewis offers several career-focused programs that will set you up for success, from criminal justice, data science, computer science. So if you want to steal Jed Hoyer's job, you can get into that. If you want to be Trevor Bauer's lawyer, you can get into criminal justice. I'm just going all over the place with this.
Let's bring that one back in.
He was the only person I could think of in the moment. Computer science, business analytics, a lot more, a lot of stuff. Discover how a degree from Lewis can help you build a better world. Learn more at lewisu.edu/you can do this.
There you go.
We head to the bottom of the 10th, 7-3 now, Rockies.
7-3.
I swear if they can't hold a 4-run lead, come on.
Would that
enough.
They can't hold it.
innings?
Yeah.
If they can't
Oh,
hold
wow.
it, I'm tweeting at Susie Hunter and blaming her for the loss.
Do we have a couple more super
We
chats?
have a
that we haven't
handful of
read
super
out?
chats here. Let's go with Manuel Rios.
Manuel,
I
yeah.
think he's talking about Taillon. He needs to trust his sweeper more as his put-away pitch. I need the pitch doctor to comment on this because I don't.
I don't know. Is he talking about Taillon?
I think he's
Yes.
talking about Taillon.
Yes, I think that was from earlier.
Yeah, that's from
yeah. I
earlier.
mean, Brendan would certainly be the guy to ask with that. But that was part of I think you
That
would
was
talk
early-
to him.
yeah, spring
That was
training.
part of kind of those early struggles. Is the Cubs tinkered with his repertoire and tried to add things, and sometimes, and I think Brendan has given credit to some of the guys. I'm blanking on exactly who it is, and he's going to kill me for forgetting this. He's in the chat, so he's going to answer. Somebody on this roster has added pitches in like record time, like in the way they've been able to implement those pitches. Brendan's always impressed with. I don't remember, but Taillon, sometimes that stuff takes time, right? And it leads to struggles with your other pitches, your mechanics, things like that. And that was part of, what you were talking about earlier, Ryan, with Taillon, is like, especially because he's on a 4-year deal, sometimes you need a little bit of patience, right? Like, you didn't come in and ask him to necessarily be the guy he was in New York. You tried to make him better. And sometimes that is a process that takes a little bit to really get to where you need it to be. So, it's a really good pitch, and he's going to have to, continue to kind of lock everything in.
The other super chat from Baseball Junkie. I feel like he's always sending a super chat, so thank you again, Baseball Junkie. Hey Chicago, what do you say? Talktober? Talktober? Yeah, Talktober.
There you go.
Might just replace Halloween on the north side this fall. Shout out to the best damn sports show, period. Hey, appreciate you, Baseball Junkie. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Yes, we are the best show on the internet every
Facts.
night, in my biased opinion.
Win or lose,
Win or
still
lose.
the best show.
Still the best show. Our other good friend, Fernando, $1.99, Cubs, CHGO, and scoreboard watching, #vibes. It is a vibe.
There you go.
And yes, I agree. It's fun to sit here and talk, like, scoreboard watch and dream about, the future and postseason and all this. It's so much more fun than thinking about the future and next season. You know what I mean?
Well,
And at this point,
yeah,
in the
you
year.
think about I was at Wrigley last week for that whole homestand, and it really felt like a playoff atmosphere. And I kind of like thought about it, and there really hasn't been that at Wrigley since 2019, this late in the season. Like, you had the 2020 season, they technically did make the playoffs in that shortened season, but there were no fans. 2021 they sold at the trade deadline. Last year they were pretty much out of it by May. So you got to go back to 2019 for a playoff race.
When 2019 fell apart in mid-September, so
Yeah.
that didn't really even get all the
It
way
didn't
there.
get all the way
I
there.
told you he would be listening. Brendan said it was Fulmer who I think started implementing different
Yes.
stuff.
There you go.
And said as a result with Taillon of using the sweeper that he kind of lost the feel of some other pitches.
It's
But
fastball,
work in progress.
Yeah.
I
So,
I knew it was Michael Fulmer. Brendan's going to be blowing up my phone. Like, how could you forget that? I say it every episode.
He's gonna be mad at you. Yeah, so 2019 is really the first time you're getting this into August, where playoffs and a playoff atmosphere at Wrigley Field seem possible. So scoreboard watching is more than okay. I think Jared, our guy Jared, tweeted maybe on Sunday if David Ross is scoreboard watching, or that he had been asked about scoreboard watching, and I think that's just where we're at in the season right now. It's there's a long way to go. You still got to win a lot of baseball games, but you're also looking at where you're stacking up in the division, where you're stacking up in the wild card race. You got to know. You got to.
When didn't David Ross say when we're in it, I do?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
When we're
Something like that.
possibly a playoff team, I am scoreboard watching.
Right.
We got one out.
We got one
Everybody,
out.
one out.
Also,
Okay.
shout out to our old pal Michael Collada, the Godfather, in the chat. Godfather will make you an offer you can't refuse. Hit the like button. We're at 197.
So,
Can we hit 200 before the end of the
I
show?
know that we're
Godfather.
like, sort of nearing the hour mark. The vibes are good. We might just go 4 hours tonight. I don't know. We didn't run that by our producer,
you go
Sarah,
ahead.
but,
I don't think
just
our
throwing
producer
it
wants
out
us
there.
to do that.
Corey will sit here on the show by himself. in bed.
already off
It's a
air.
good sign that we're able to talk about so many big performances on a night like tonight and not really even mention Cody Bellinger, right? Who hit another home run. It 1 for 4 in this game tonight, but just absurd what he is doing out there. A 150 WRC plus. He's hitting 330. You guys, and this is a 1 for 4 tonight, so his average went down.
Yeah.
330. It's absurd.
He's been awesome. Me and Brendan actually
We're waiting to
put
the
out-
end of the show to talk about Bellinger.
Yeah,
That's what says a lot about the game itself.
Absolutely.
Me and Brendan actually put out
because he's kind of
article-
obvious, right? Oh,
put
we
out
got
an
2
article
outs
on allchgo.com.
Chat's throwing 2 outs.
Yep,
2
2 outs.
everybody.
Trying to plug my article here.
Sorry.
Guys.
Plug the article.
Me and Brendan put out an article on allchgo.com about Cody Bellinger. What makes Cubs Cody Bellinger such a dangerous hitter? Go check it out on allchgo.com. If you like graphs, Brendan threw a few of them in there. Got quotes. Talked to obviously Bellinger and David Ross. Also the Cubs hitting coach Dustin Kelly. Some good stuff in there, and taking a look at why Cody Bellinger has been so good this year. I recommend it, obviously, no bias. But, yes, Cody Bellinger doing all the research and the stats, the situational hitting, the heat maps that Brendan has in there. It's like he's really, really good at hitting this year, and there's not very many clear ways for other teams to attack Cody Bellinger because it seems to be even if they make an adjustment to him, he's making that adjustment right back very quickly, which is something we talk about is a constant in baseball. No matter how much of a veteran you are in this game, teams are still going to try to adjust to you, and you're still going to have to be able to make those adjustments back.
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger does that easily, and that's why he's been among the top hitters in baseball this year.
Christian Yelich has grounded out because he stopped stealing signs and now sucks again. Rockies 7, Brewers 3, Cubs 1.5 games back. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think there's probably still some West Coast games going on, but as it stands right now, Cubs are 1.5 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers, and they've jumped the Reds, right? Is that correct?
They should be in the final wild card spot based off percentage points right now.
Yes.
Right. They're percentage points ahead of the Reds.
Yes.
Yes.
So
3 behind the Phillies and 3.5 behind the Giants. So those
go,
are your
man.
standings as we probably go to sleep
Yeah, if
tonight.
you're scoreboard watching, that's what you got to watch.
Finishing on
absolutely.
Bellinger, 13th highest wins above replacement. WRC plus of position players, 17th in WAR. There's just not that much that you can really say about the guy. And that's all while playing multiple positions, right? I think his defensive overall rating would be higher if you're looking at some of those advanced metrics if they weren't asking him to play multiple positions, right?
Yeah.
But he's been in center, he's been at first, he's been DH at times, just incredible. And yeah, it does speak to what the Cubs did tonight and the performances they're getting from some other guys that are and I guess it also speaks to what Cody Bellinger's doing, that it's obviously Cody did something tonight. We don't need to talk about it right away. We can highlight some of the other guys, right?
because I just don't know what else to say about Cody
No,
Bellinger.
it's true. Yeah.
Everything
it's
we're
just
saying
amazing.
now is what we've been able to say about him for the last month now.
Yeah, a month
right?
and a half.
Should we make that a quick transition into who you got? Because I think
I
based on
guess.
who got picked, Cody Bellinger is the winner.
Yeah, Luke didn't send in a pick. I don't know if that's going to hurt him in the long run.
will.
But Ryan went with Belly. I went with Hap because of the bit. Brendan went with Nico because it's Brendan. And Corey went with Candyman. 2 hits from Candyman tonight.
But not a home run.
He didn't hit a homer.
Not a home run in a 1-run game. You got to defer to.
Yeah.
I will,
All right.
Yeah.
big of us to just hand it over.
I will take the
I
victory
know Luke
lap.
Stuckmeyer would sit here and fight you out.
Complain, saying that his guy took 12 pitches in
yeah,
at bat
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Big
whoever
of
it
us
is.
to just
Yeah.
hand
And
it
I
to
think
you. Credit to us.
I think it was our guy Mike Dubs in the chat. Right now, the Angels are leading the Giants, the aforementioned Giants, who are currently number 1 in those NL wildcard standings. 4-3, only the 5th inning. So after we sign off here, if you want to continue to scoreboard watch, you got a few more innings of that one. But hey, anytime the teams in this race are losing. That's going to be something we're looking at. The goal is to win the division, right? I don't think that needs to be said. You're a game and a half out.
You host a wild
I
card
am
series
violently sick of the Milwaukee Brewers screwing their way to this division title. So we're winning the division, but it's nice to have backups. It's good to have options.
Well, it
right?
just feels better when you win the division too. Then I can talk all the trash, even more trash, to Cardinal fans and to like the 10 Brewers fans that exist on Twitter because we fill their ballpark when the Cubs go there. So I'm just saying, more trash talk. I love it, especially when it favors me.
Yeah,
because as I've said, no one holds a grudge like me.
I know we have a couple things to plug, but I saw David Snyder in the chat saying this, so I do just want to say it because we are reading the chat, talking about just like Morel struggling for the last like 7 games or so, Madrigal, not hitting as well. It's a work in progress, right?
I don't even think Morel's struggling.
No, it's just like literally 7 games, right? Like, and just I think an 0 for tonight. Third base and like how they're positioning everybody is something they're going to continue to work on. But especially with Morel, he's 23 years old. He's showing a lot of really good signs. He's had some really professional at bats, even in games where he is not hitting homers or even getting hits at all. He's taking walks, which is a really nice sign. And as far as Madrigal, right, like, he's come back from injury. He was really hot when he came back, and he's still a guy that just does not have a ton of plate appearances at the MLB level. So they're going to continue to get these guys looks. As we go into August and September, right, like, things are going to get put in a vice, right? Guys are going to have to perform or they're going to get moved to a different role, like with Seiya Suzuki, right? But at the same time, like, you're going to have to be a little more patient than like, hey, this guy's struggling for 5 or 6 games, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, there's not perfect options that they have behind him. You can put Candy at third and Belly at first and Talk in center, but then, are you putting Seiya back out in right field every night? That's clearly not something they want to do right now. So work in progress. They'll figure it out.
My 2 cents, Morel, yes, he struck out twice tonight. Struck out last night because of a stupid umpire. We need some robots behind home plate. But he also took a walk tonight.
He's taken 4 walks in his last 3 games.
Yeah, he's like everyone wants to compare him to Javi Baez, but man, this guy knows how to take walks more than Javi Baez ever did, and he hasn't even reached the level of like, the potential that he could be at. And we've already seen a massive upgrade from him this year compared to last year. So yeah, I'm willing to take the strikeouts if he's going to walk more, if he's going to continue to have power. He has one of the highest OPSs on the team. Don't tell me that this guy needs to be sitting. No. As far as Madrigal, sure, yes. If I will say that the defense has been the reason that he's out there, in my opinion. He's been the best defensive third baseman they got. They're playing Candelario at first because they want to play Bellinger in center because there's more value in him being in center than it is at first base. I get that. I'm not complaining about it. Last few games, sure, yeah. He got thrown out at first base tonight. I don't think the hits are there, and he doesn't walk a ton. My thing is if he doesn't hit, then you can eventually move Candelario over to third and then put Bellinger at first and you move Tauchman to center and then go back to Suzuki and right. And what I hope happens, is Seiya, when he starts tomorrow, is the beginning of something that hopefully he gets on a run. Like, I will continue to cheer for Seiya Suzuki because I think he is one of the better hitters on this team when right. So if that does happen, then the Cubs might be forced to then play Candelario at third, move Bellinger to first, and then put Tauchman in center and go Suzuki and right.
You've always wanted Seiya to show more power.
Yes.
That might not be something they can tap into right now. If he can at least be the on-base guy that he can be, right? He can take his walks, he can get on base, he can put the ball in play when his approach is right and his mechanics are right. At the very least, if you can get that, it would be a big help. We've seen this lineup get deeper, the way they've moved things around, bringing in Candelario, etc. If you can slot him toward the back of that order and he can just find ways to get on base, settle his approach at the plate a little bit, you will take that because it's going to continue what we've been talking about of having a 1 through 9 that feels deeper and has removed the period where we were like, well, you've got 3 to 4 automatic outs in there, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a process. I wouldn't put all your eggs in tomorrow's basket, but hopefully he can at least
it's a
tap
start.
into those skills that we know he's been able to show during his time at the MLB level, even if some of the bigger ones may not come.
Absolutely. I agree. All right. Before we get out of here, we got two things to talk to you about. First off, next week, the takeover. The takeover on August 16th. All right. The Cubs just won a comeback game tonight. I'm telling you, if they win tomorrow and then they take the series against the Blue Jays, the vibes are going to be incredible at beautiful historic Wrigley Field when the White Sox come to Wrigley next week. And you're going to want to be there. And yes, I keep reaching out to the people that set up our event to find out where the pregame meetup is, and they still haven't told me. But I am on a mission to figure out where the pregame meetup is. But it will be in Wrigleyville. All right? It will be there. So come hang out, sit with us, and I think it will be in section 425 on the right side. And, yeah, watch the Cubs Sox and hang out with me and Luke and Ryan and Corey. And, yeah,
I
have a
might
good time.
pop over and say hi.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
at
know
the
you'll be
game.
in
I'll
the
be at the
bar-
game. Be at the press box. On top of that, though, we also have our CHGO Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill, August 25th, 9 a.m. You play 18 holes with a golf cart. You get an exclusive CHGO and Pins and Aces golf towel for all players. You got hole contests, giveaways, prizes, lunch, drinks, and a ceremony after the round. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're all going to be out there. And you get a discount if you're a diehard. If you're a CHGO diehard, you get a discount.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you a little bit about that. So here at CHGO, as you all know in the chat, you're always here with us. You got podcasts and live shows on every team every day, post-game shows, premium written content for all members at allchgo.com. Diehards, if you're a diehard, you get 20% off events, 20% off dope merch, I want to say, too. Dope merch is what Luke Stuckmeyer would call it. You get a free shirt, actually, when you become a CHGO diehard, so don't forget to do that. And you get access to our members-only Discord, a.k.a. the CHGO Lounge. I'm telling you, man, what you get for being a diehard pays for itself right away. So become a CHGO diehard, join us, talk to us, have fun. And, sign up at the CHGO Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill. Don't forget about that.
Barb, I will not throw my clubs at Cog Hill, but thank you for for putting that energy out there. I appreciate it.
I like also, too, before we sign off, it was our guy Born to Run 99 talking about how, they won't have room for Seiya because they're going to have PCA, Tauchman, Ohtani, Happ. Listen,
And Bellinger.
kind of like our guy, and Belly, right?
Mhm.
Like, kind of like our guy, Greg Braggs. Like, now that they're, like, playing well and they're, like, in this playoff hunt, all the even mentions of Ohtani, I'm like, look, don't let me dream, right? Because I am ready to
dream.
get carried away.
I love to dream. My dreams never come true, but I like to do it.
Either way, that would seem like a good problem for the Cubs to have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. 222 likes with 365 people in the chat. Make that make sense. Hit the like button on the way out. Appreciate everyone for hanging out. We tried to read as many comments as we could.
There's a lot of them.
There was a lot of them. This is what's like this. These last handful of weeks have been my favorite part of like doing this podcast. And obviously it's because the Cubs are playing their best baseball in the CHGO Cubs era, but as in right now, these last handful of weeks. But it's good to it's very fun to watch the chat and to celebrate the Brewers losing while also the Cubs winning, and all this. It's been very fun. So again, we'll be back tomorrow though. I think it'll be me and Ryan, and I don't know, maybe we'll drag someone else in here too. But yeah, we'll be back for post game tomorrow. Hopefully the Cubs take the series against the Mets. Kyle Hendricks goes tomorrow. I've been defending Kyle Hendricks on Twitter a lot the last handful of days, and I'm like, I need him to feed me 6 or 7 innings tomorrow so I can come on here and tell people to put some goddamn respect on his name, man.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
win the series.
You had a huge week taking care of. The Reds came in first place. You took care of them. You sent them packing. You seem to have maybe sent them in a bit of a spiral to kind of like remove them from this race. Not totally, but maybe. You showed up huge against one of the best teams in baseball in the Atlanta Braves. Just win a series. Keep it going. It's been tough. They have not had an off day. They're so close to that off day.
Close.
You're on the road. The Professor, just win a series.
Yeah, and Barb, you asked the time live right after the game.
Right after
As
the
always.
game, Barb. Literally, as always, is right after the game. No pregame show, Robert.
Just post.
Just post. It'll just be me and Ryan. So come hang out with us tomorrow after the game. And I'm
not going to babysit for Luke.
Ryan, please babysit.
Unless he pays me a lot of money, then I would.
Barb, you're the biggest wild card in the chat, as always. Okay, thanks for dropping in.
Thanks, y'all.
To check out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We'll see y'all tomorrow where we hopefully fly the W.